where he can get value from either Withering Witch plus either store.
You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome to Top 8 here at the Eternal Tournament Series. I am Truedawn. As always, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host Bairdrus.
Hey everybody, we are going to have a fantastic top 8 ready for you guys. Before we jump into our feature match, we're going to take a little time to just go over the bracket really quick and show you what all the quarterfinals matches are going to look like. So at the top of the bracket, we're going to have maybe next time at 6-0 on Voda Combo / Primal. He's going up against Paradox, who's on Rakano Plate. That will be our feature match for this round. On the second one, we're going to have Master Bacon, who is up on Rakano Plate at 5-1. He's going to be facing off against Shed, who is also 5-1. He's playing Combri Aggro today. On the lower half of the bracket, we're going to have Manus, who is also 5-1 on Burn Queen, one of our two Burn Queen players. He's going to be going up against Pupicidus, who is up on Rakano Plate as well. Got 3 Rakano Plate decks up here. He's on 4-2. And our last and final matchup is going to be Visarius on Burn Queen at 5-1 up against level 13 David, who we've seen twice today, at 5-1 on Chalice Control. So definitely an interesting top 8. We got 3 Rakano Plate decks, 2 Burn Queen decks, a Combri Aggro, a Chalice Control, and a Vote combo. So a little bit of a distinct leaning towards aggro this time around, which is it's interesting to see people respond to the meta that we've seen over the last few weeks of heavy Chalice Control and Big Combri.
Yeah, this meta there certainly appears to be a response to what we've seen in Chalice, people attacking it at the extreme ends of the spectrum, both underneath and over the top. A lot of success from the Burn Queen decks, a lot of success from the Vodafone decks. People trying to exploit the extreme ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and we have a great matchup for you all first. We're going to have maybe next time, who is on Vodacon Vodacombo / Primal. Maybe next time is a 2-time tournament player. This is actually his second tournament. Last week he top 8'd the event, and this week he top 8'd with a 6-0 finish. So fantastic up and coming player. He's going to be playing off against a Paradox, who is 4-2, a regular here at the Eternal Tournament Series. Has qualified for, I believe, 2 invitationals. He is up on Rakano Plate. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. Rakano Plate is one of the few decks I feel like has the potential to handle Voda combo, since they can have very early starts.
Yeah, definitely. I'm inclined to agree with that. And we'll definitely see how that plays out in the top 8. I think we can move to our first matchup we have here between Rakano Plate and Voda Combo.
And these games, for those of you who are not aware, are going to be best of 5. We're going to have a best of 5 series with sideboarding after game 2. So we're going to get 2 back-to-back games of these players' main decks, followed up by a third game with sideboard, and any following games will be sideboarded if necessary. So let's check this one out as we are at the mulligan stage right here. We've got, actually, players have already resolved their mulligans. Paradox on the aReNGee Imperial Armor build of Rakano Plate. How do you feel about that, Trudeau? I know you're generally a proponent of aReNGee Imperial Armor. What do you think how do you think it stacks up compared to Voda Combo?
It's just good in every matchup, and Voda Combo is definitely one of them because it's just another source of making your guys unbeatable. So it's essentially just another Hammer of Might that is also a creature that can get equipped with Hammer of Might that can also make a Hammer of Might every turn without spending cards. So, like, it's just an exceptional card. I can't think of a reason to not play it. It seems not defensible to me. Especially when you're playing things like Silvering Familiar, you need equipment to make that card remotely relevant, and aReNGee is just another source of that without overloading your deck on equipment, so you're short on creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. We see the early turns of the game getting to a head. We see Paradox picking up a Oni Ronin. That would be the name of the little 2-1. And unfortunately for him, we see maybe next time being able to respond with this Temple Scribe here. Going to stall this out a little bit. Still going to attack with the Warcry unit very likely. And in fact, we do see them trading in. Going to get those Warcry triggers starting to build for Paradox and clearing the unit off the table. See Crown Watch Paladin the follow-up.
Yeah, it's a decent follow-up here. Just to keep the Warcry chain rolling, you need to have your things big enough to attack through Combre, and in this case, Vote Combos, giant creatures. So that's just one of the reasons why I've advocated for Crown Watch over Tinker, even though the body is worse. Warcry is just far too important to sacrifice on a 2-drop.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see Jean Imperial Armor now coming down. This is going to allow, as you said, some Hammers of Might start getting thrown out for Paradox. And this is going to make some very, very large units that are going to be hard to deal with for maybe next time. And honestly, this could be the entirety of Paradox's game plan. And I would already say, it's looking pretty solid.
Yeah, he doesn't have a power, unfortunately. So if he draws one, then he's just going to get to keep putting his opponent to the test with the 4/4 weapons. So this Crown Watch will go off, and even if he doesn't draw power, he has access to Oni Ronin and Champion of Glory, depending upon how far he wants to extend to a harsh rule. And actually, we see, knowing deck lists, that there is no harsh rule in Vote Combo, as there should be.
Yeah, and we see the silence come down on Sandstorm Titan. Actually, Paradox electing to try and play somewhat of an air battle here. Maybe next time is going to have an opportunity here to use Great Parliament to play defense against that. But it looks like he's more likely going to opt to go with the Voice of the Speaker and the Temple Scribe combination and just start setting up his combo pieces.
Yeah, he just needs to stall the game out to get to his end game, and he's doing a reasonable job of that so far. He's getting a little bit bailed out by Paradox missing the 4th land drop, so the Gene can't go off, especially if he does it this turn, then it gets to go on a flyer, and then that's a huge clock. But again, Paradox does not hit the 4th power drop, so the pressure is going to come on, but it's not really an irrelevant amount.
Yeah, not exactly. I mean, there's plenty of units on the board, but they're not crashing with maybe next time's face, and that gives him plenty of time to build towards this combo. Not under a ton of pressure right now. That being said, though, maybe next time not really picking up any pieces of the combo. If Paradox can find his 4th power and start this Ajin train rolling, it is still very likely he could just kind of steamroll maybe next time here.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as this game goes, it's really going to depend upon can maybe next time actually turn the corner. The Sandstorm Titan is still a big problem, but yeah, there's the Great Parliament 4/4 checking the 3/3. So, and another Voice of the Speaker, a little redundant. Now here's the 4th power. Now Ajin can actually start taking over the game. He can put a 4/4 on the flyer, allowing it to attack. Then he can put in the quick draw creature next turn. He can even do a quick draw this turn. Whichever way. Yeah, he's going to have really good attacks, and this is just going to happen every turn for the rest of the game until maybe next time stops it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, not very likely to happen anytime soon. Maybe next time with an interesting choice here, whether or not he's going to drop Great Parliament or Combre Healer. If he drops Great Parliament, he could start to create some sort of a clock in the air, as well as have a way to defend against the quite possibly buffed up flyer here. Looks like he's going to go the route where he's going to buff the Sandstorm Titan, though, to make it currently out of range of the Champion of Glory. If Champion of Glory gets buffed up again, though, not going to work out. That being said, Champion of Glory can just be chump blocked by these 1/1 tokens for quite a while.
Yeah, it's kind of why I advocate for putting it on the flyer, but because you wanted to make it the Champion 7/7 to block the Sandstorm Titan and stop the counter pressure. Now that you've accomplished that, you don't need to attack with the Champion anymore. You can leave it as 7/7, holding the Titan, and you just pump up your 3/3 to a 7/7 flyer and jam.
Yeah, and next turn you can make it an 11/11 and continue attacking in, and maybe next time is going to have to start chump blocking with these owls in air. You also have a torch for a little bit of reach if you need it at some point, so...
Yeah, and these are the games where Ajin is this is why you run the card, because you frequently get into board stalls, and normally Rakano has nothing to break it, and Ajin breaks the board stall. Ajin gives you a way to get over the top of the board and actually start attacking in spots where you would not otherwise be able to do so.
Yeah, and we do in fact see the armor come down on the Valkyrie Enforcer, going to allow him to start pushing some damage. Maybe next time. In the meantime, definitely going to have to wait a turn on this Parliament now.
Yep, this is the play I thought we'd expect. Like, you don't care about the crackback. You will take 4, go to 7, and then you could actually. No, it's 1 short, but like your equipment plus torch threatens a lot of damage. Like, you're fine trying to race here, and even if they play like another Raid Parliament or something, you just leave it back on defense, pump up the Champion of Glory, attack with the Champion of Glory. So you can just keep conforming to whatever it is that maybe next time is trying to do to defend.
Yeah, and maybe next time not having an answer to this Aegean Imperial Armor is certainly a big problem for him. And we do see what looks like an attack coming in here for maybe next time. I mean, he's guaranteed to push 4 damage through here and put his opponent down to 7. I'll be curious to see how the blocks come in from Paradox. It's not going to be really clean across the board. Probably sacrifice the Oni Ronin to the Sandstorm Titan to take that one off the board with the Champion of Glory, and then use the Crown Watch Paladin to take care of the 2/2.
Yeah, I'm definitely for making trades here. You just like don't want to die. You could even double block the Titan with the 7/7 and the 3/2, and then just block the 2/1 and the 2/2.
Yeah, you can completely block this way, and interesting he makes the trade there. I mean, he's trying to absorb as much damage as possible. I do understand that, but I really honestly just like eating the extra 2 damage going down to 5. I mean, 5 is a nice round number from where you're sitting. You're not too worried about it, and you still get to keep your Champion of Glory. It's not like he's going anywhere. You just still sacrifice the Oni Ronin, you leave a 2/5 on the board, but it takes the Sandstorm Titan off the board, and the Sandstorm Titan's the only unit that can really effectively block the Champion of Glory currently.
Yeah, and that's likely to change because the way maybe next time I set this up, it's going to be hard for Paradox to attack in the air again, at least next turn. So it'll likely just pump up the champion, attack with the champion. It'll lead a 1/1, and then there'll be an 11/11 and a 7/7 on defense. And then maybe next time can attack, they just attack, pump the flyer. So this is snowball control. Although there is no Parliament or anything, so now we may see the flyer come in. There is no reach, and that's the one good thing about playing as Combray. Whatever damage on the board is the damage you're taking. So we may be able to see some attacks here in the air from Paradox.
Yeah, I would very much like to see attacking with the champion and the owl and pumping the owl up. You're going to put 11 damage into your opponent's face. You're going to take 1 unit off the board. You still got the Champion of Glory to play defense at that point. And your opponent's down to 5, which means if you draw a second torch, you can just burn them out without actually having to make any more attacks. Like, it sets you up for a quick lethal.
Yeah, and I don't think you can Aegean this turn. I think you have to play like a champion or the outlaw or something, because the 7/7s are big enough attackers, and you actually, like, if you pump up and attack, you die on the crackback even through torch. So they don't want to do that, but they still have very good attacks with the 2 7/7s, and then they could play some blockers in the back end, leave up torch, and still be in a very good spot for next turn.
Do you die on the crackback here, Truedawn?
Because it gets, if you exhaust the Aegean and then attack with the 7/7, you only have 1 blocker left, and you get to check the Titan and one of the 1/1s, and you take 6. You go to 1. Okay.
That's true. Yeah, correct. So yeah, you can only check the Titan. You will die to the 1/1s. Although, well, no, actually, he will.
You torch a 1/1. Yeah, you go to 1. If you want to attack for 11 in the air, you can do that, but you go to 1.
Actually, what I was thinking is that so if he pumps it this turn, you actually have to block with a 1/1 here, not to die to torch.
Yeah. And actually, the champion gets to attack. Yeah, the champion gets to attack. Yeah, so the 1/1 dies in the process. Yeah.
It's not hugely important, but it would put your opponent 4 damage lower here, which is in double torch range. As it is, he's just going to commit 2 units to board. That being said, though, I mean, Paradox is going to get to put 4 through in the air on his turn, and then make 2 more owl tokens, and maybe next time gets to make them. And Paradox doesn't have a response to any of this damage in the air, so he has to figure out how to close out the game immediately, or he's going to lose.
Yeah, the second great problem is a huge problem. He needs to find something like a Deforged Plate, some source of overwhelm to be able to close this out. Also, a Valkyrie Enforcer doesn't actually do it either, and yeah, that's not going to be enough because he can just chump block across the board and have enough flyers in the air to crack back.
Yeah, because the Owls are too big, unfortunately, for him to actually be able to do anything about it. I mean, he's going to swing in with everything here, but yeah, like you said, you just chump block. You chump block with one of the Owls, I would assume, into this. And then you chump block with the 2 Voice of the Speakers into the 7/7s, and then the Sandstorm Titan eats the 2/2, and you're fine. Now, if he makes the mistake of actually letting the Valkyrie Enforcer go through for whatever reason, that will give him game. But yeah, obviously, maybe next time, not going to make that mistake, and he's locked up this game 1 for himself.
Yeah, we do see blocks just being parsed out here.
Yeah,
and
maybe
it looks like he's going to block the right way.
Yep, certainly taking his time, making sure doesn't want to lose this match out of nowhere, but it's not going to happen. He has locked this game up for himself. And we will be going into a second game. We're going to see Honorable Sudoku by Paradox as we move on to game 2, still in the main boards.
Yep, we'll see how both players decide to sideboard here. There's a lot of options on either side. We do see in the Rakano plate deck. Oh, never mind. I almost did it. We have one more game of game 1 pre-boarded.
Yeah, and we'll see. That was very interesting out of the Rakano deck. Like, it was close in many places there, but unfortunately, he just couldn't bring it quite home. So we'll see if Voda Combo can take out another win, or if Paradox will be able to run it back this time and have a better start. I mean, what really happened to me in that game from Paradox's perspective is not only did he miss his power, which was kind of crucial, like the aReNGee not coming down for a couple turns hurt him a lot, he never found a plate. And finding a plate in a matchup like this is very, very important. That overwhelm cannot be overstated enough. Like, the fact that the 7/7 Champions of Glory had endurance and quick draw is fantastic, but without overwhelm, they're just getting chump blocked by these 1/1s that maybe next time is just happy to sacrifice.
Yeah, and that was just like a showcase of the power of aReNGee. Like, that game would not have been remotely close if aReNGee was any other card, but because it was aReNGee, there actually was a fighting chance. It didn't work out, but if there was a power turn earlier, if maybe you would attack with a flyer 1 turn or something, a lot of things could have gone different. aReNGee actually kept him in the game where a lot of other cards would not.
Yeah, aReNGee was the single card really there that was able to help him out and give him a chance. We're going to see the players jump back in again, and we'll see if aReNGee can come through that time. Another part of that game that really stuck out to me that hurt Paradox a lot was he had an Oni Ronin on turn 1 that got checked by a Temple Scribe, and he also had a Crown Watch Paladin that got checked by, I believe it was another Temple Scribe. Like, there were 2 Temple Scribes, and they basically just ate 2 2/1s. And that made it very, very difficult for Paradox, who really needs to force through that early damage and get those Warcry triggers stacked up.
Yeah, definitely. Temple Scribe is one of the more important cards in this matchup when it does cold a Crown Watch Paladin or an Oni Ronin, as it did in the last game. We'll see if that happens again here. We do see Paradox is going to play his turn 1 Oni Ronin, and he has a pretty good curve moving forward.
Yeah, turn 1 Oni Ronin into Champion of Glory into possibly Sword of Akari. It depends on what he elects to do here. If he wants to go for the Seek Power, or if he wants to get the Champion of Glory down. Possible he misses a drop. Maybe next time's hand is absolutely dead, though. I cannot say that enough. DEAD dead. He's got a Desert Marshal that he just picked up, and he has a Seek Power, and that's it. This Seraph on field and a Desert Marshal are essentially the only cards that he's going to be packing for quite a while in this game.
Well, those are going to be enough right now. The Seraph checks the board. The Desert Marshal can deal with the champion. Paradox doesn't have a way to get through a 3/4. 3/4s are like a really bad size for Rakano. They have a hard time dealing with it. Although there is an aReNGee again. We will see if maybe Paradox can try and bait a sounds a different thing. But now this aReNGee is likely to hit the Desert Marshal instead of the champion.
Yeah, and the Desert Marshal does hit the aReNGee and silences it. He still does have the 4/3, though, so he can start at least pushing some damage through. And maybe next time's hand is 4 power. That is all he is packing. Paradox, on the other hand, has gas for days in this hand. 2 Valkyrie Enforcers and a Sword of Ikaria. And the Deep Forge Plate that I mentioned last game, like Deep Forge Plate is a huge card in this matchup. If your opponent doesn't have Vanquish to take care of your unit right away, that Overwhelm is devastating.
Yeah, and I actually like an alpha attack here on the side of Paradox. Whatever they block with Seraph, you can finish off with Sword of Ikaria and then play an Oni Ronin, and their board becomes like essentially wiped, and then you're left with 2 creatures or 3 creatures counting the Oni Ronin. So I would have preferred to see that. We do see the more conservative attack of just the aReNGee and then the follow-up Valkyrie Enforcer.
Yeah, and this play isn't bad either, but I think I'm in the same camp as you. I'd like to see that Sword of Ikaria come down and help finish off the Seraph. Not only do you save the Valkyrie Enforcer for the next unit that you really want to silence, but it does leave you in what looks like a better board position. As it stands now with the Great Parliament coming down, your flyer's kind of checked in the air, as are a lot of your units.
But there is the power for the plate, and now Paradox can choose to make pretty unbeatable threat, although he's got to be a little bit concerned about harsh roll at this point. There are only 2 in... Oh, actually, no, we were not in post-board games yet. There actually are no harsh rolls that he knows of, so Vanquish is the only concern. So he's not really concerned about overextending into this board, although putting something all in on the plate will expose them to Vanquish. That seems fine, though. You push a lot of damage in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine you're going to throw it on the Valkyrie Enforcer here. Not only make it overwhelm, but also just make it very difficult to beat. A lot of consideration coming out here from Paradox. Looks like he's actually going to go with the Valkyrie Enforcer, silencing off the Great Parliament and just forcing through some damage. Actually, we're going to see, a lot of attacks coming out here. Looks like, yeah, basically goes for an almost alpha. Looks like he's going to sacrifice these 2 Oni Ronin.
And that's what you have to do. And when you get into this spot as Rakano and like your Oni Ronin's can attack, you just alpha with them because you really do need the Warcry triggers. Those are relevant. And things that are blocking Oni Ronins aren't blocking other stuff, so they force through some amount of damage. So even though the Oni Ronins died, that was like all they were going to do. You have to like recognize when chump attacking is correct in Rakano, and it's usually correct more often than you might think.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we have a great situation. I mean, maybe next time still has a handful of power, and we're going to see him swing in here with 14 damage. Let's see if maybe next time elects to make a block here. He does, in fact. I don't think it's going to matter at this point, though. It doesn't look like there's a lot he can do from this situation.
Yeah, we do know that there's no harsh rolls in the main deck. One of the premier things you'd use to come back from a spot like this. He needs like Vanquish and Great Parliament on 2, and he can't do those for a variety of reasons. So we will tie up the series 1-1 and move into sideboarded games and see how players like to change their deck.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe next time he'll draw some power. That's not power, some units. That would definitely help out quite a lot there. But unfortunately for him, not going to happen. 1-1 apiece. Let's see what happens in Game 3 as we get into our sideboarding phase. Taking a look at these players' sideboards.
Yep, and the Rakano deck has access to Elder's Feather, Protect, Rebuke, Vanquish, Silver Familiar, Orc, Runehammer, and Soulfire Drake. I like the Vanquishes and maybe even the Rebuke. Just being able to get rid of blockers. The main problem Rakano has with Combre is not being able to attack through the large creatures. Those help with that. Elder's Feather kind of does as well, but a little bit less so. You don't want to dilute your deck too much. So, again, a linear aggro deck, not going to sideboard too much, but I would expect probably those Vanquishes and the Rebukes.
Yeah, very likely to see those come in, possibly an Elder's Feather too, as you said. Not a ton else, though. On maybe next time's side for his Voda combo deck, we've got Permafrost, Desert Marshal, Lightning Storms, Valkyrie Enforcers, Harsh Rules, a ton of cards he can really bring into this matchup against the Rakano play deck.
Yeah, Harsh Roll is the big one I would bring in. There's a lot of boards you find yourself against, like last game, that the only out you have is Harsh Rule, so having 2 of them is certainly good. Desert Marshal is a very good early interactive spell. Decay can be good, but also you might just die to a large Warcry creature, or even against the aReNGee, it's medium. So I do think you bring it in, but it's not as good as you might think. And Valkyrie's, I guess, okay. So there's a lot of medium stuff. Harsh Rule, I think, is a slam dunk. Desert Marshal seems clear to me. And outside of that, I think that there's a debate amongst what cards you want to bring in.
Yeah, it really depends on what angle you feel like you want to attack from here. Taking a look at his sideboarding. Well, actually, unfortunately, we can't take a look at maybe next time sideboarding, but we do get to see the Rakano deck. He is bringing in the 2 Elder's Feathers as well as the Rebuke that you called, and I believe I can see the Vanquishes down there as well. So it looks like we were pretty much dead on his sideboard. Don't think a lot is getting changed outside of that. Not a ton of useful cards.
Yeah, you can't dilute your deck too much with Rakano. You have a certain amount of creatures you can't really mess with. You need a certain amount of things that help you make your creatures large enough to attack through whatever, so that those slots are like your Deforged Plates, your Hammers of Might and stuff. So you can cut some number of those for similar effects, such as Rebuke and Vanquish, but you need to like maintain this like balance between creatures and non-creature spells in order to have the deck still function.
Yeah, absolutely here. Finishing touches coming in on the deck, a couple numbers being tweaked. Ooh, Silverwing Familiar, actually. That was one of the cards we hadn't brought up, but it looks like he does want to bring in Silverwing Familiar. I'm always hesitant when I'm bringing in cards like Silverwing Familiar against a deck that plays so many Sandstorm Titans. Until you answer Sandstorm Titan, it's so annoying to deal with.
Even Great Parliament tokens, like usually called it, like on the nut draw curve of Silver Familiar and Hammer of Might, it just trades with a Great Parliament token, and it can't attack through a Sandstorm Titan. So I'm pretty dubious on bringing it in against Cambrai. I think it's good against Stone Scar because the lifelink matters. They also don't have great blockers against it, and things like Chalice, stuff that can't really interact with in the air. But there is a lot of ways that Cambrai can block it profitably, just with their creatures they normally play. So there'll be games where it shines, but I think on the balance, it's a pretty dubious inclusion.
Certainly, with the Hammer of Mights being pulled out, even it's really not a lot to stick on it outside of Deforged Plate. Like you're playing essentially 4 cards in your deck that can augment a Silverwing Familiar to be better than a 1/1, and outside of that, you're not in a great position. aReNGee Imperial Armor is the only other card, so the aReNGees can put in some work certainly on Silverwing Familiar, but Silverwing Familiar to me is more of a card that it's not always about pushing damage. It's a lot about trading life and those tempo swings you gain from it. But Vodacombo is not a deck that's going to be pressuring the Rakano Plate's life total generally. It's going to be setting up for its late game combo.
Yeah. So we'll see if that ends up coming back to bite Paradox as we move here into Game 3, the first of our sideboarded games. We'll see what hands both players elect to keep and move into the early turns of the game.
Yeah, we're looking at interesting hands here. So maybe next time did bring in the Lightning Storms. We at least see that right out of the gate. So if Lightning Storm came in, Harsh Rule certainly came in. Ooh, Paradox is a very, very bad opening hand.
Yeah, if he's able to draw running fire sources, it's actually pretty good. But if that doesn't happen, and there's fire source 1, so step 1 is accomplished. He can now play the Outlaw on the next turn. If he draws another fire source in the next 2 turns, he can play the aReNGee, and then he's off to the races. So what looked like a really bad initial opening hand does have a shot to be pretty okay.
Yeah, fortunately for him. So we do see that come down. There is that Lightning Storm hanging out maybe next time's hand. We'll see if he decides he wants to throw it down here. And in fact, he does. So he uses it as basically a 1-for-1 trade.
That's nice fine in the Rakano mirror. Like that, it's usually greedy to expect to get more than that. I mean, sometimes they'll play like Oniron into that, but if they didn't have a 1-drop, it's unlikely you'll get much more value. And if you wait, you give up 2 damage and a Warcry trigger, which do matter.
Yeah, we see Silverwing Familiar come down, and Great Parliament the response. So just like you had brought up, Great Parliament, a generally good way of handling these Silverwing Familiars. Paradox
Diplomatic Seal being awkward.
Yeah, Diplomatic Seal being very awkward for Paradox. Not being able to play aReNGee here is not the position he wants to be in, though he is happy to just go ahead and take the silence on the Great Parliament token so he can start pressuring more damage into the air.
Yeah, it is only 4 damage right now. It's actually an even race. But again, as we said earlier, the Vodacombo deck doesn't really care about the life total. So damage they're putting into the opponent doesn't matter. They don't have reach. Like, they don't have weapons. They can't really, like, close out from a low life total. So even if the race is even, it still heavily favors Paradox if racing is what we're doing.
Yeah, and it looks like the players are starting to just race. Paradox threw down a second Valkyrie Enforcer with no real silence target, and he's just creating a race situation for himself. With the second Valkyrie Enforcer in play going unchecked for at least this turn, though, this puts him very far ahead on the clock, and I think this is finally going to be when maybe next time has to fire off a harsh rule. We'll see as we go into his turn.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like a harshable board. He's really close to dying to these flyers, and we do see the trigger pulled. The Paradox will retain a 1/1, and if he draws a fire source, he just gets to plate it up. But until that point, it's not a particularly relevant card, as we talked about in the pregame.
Oh, and second Diplomatic Seal picked up for Paradox. Still very awkward. Has a basically unplayable hand here. Meanwhile, maybe next time is at least, starting to build up his power base using cards like Find the Way, but he really doesn't have any other interaction going on in his hand. We see a single Permafrost and a Vanquish and just some power beside that.
Yeah, the game has slowed down to a point that is good for maybe next time, but he does need to do something. He does need his top end. He has gotten up to 8 power, so he does have the ability to do a bunch of stuff, but he needs stuff to do.
And Rakano Banner picked up for Paradox. This is going to allow him to play the plate, breaks off the Permafrost, and punches in. This puts maybe next time down to 6, and this is going to force that Vanquish from maybe next time's hand.
Yeah, this is threatening lethal. He does have the answer, so he won't die to it. And now, Paradox can deploy either one or both aReNGee, depending upon how aggressive they feel. But in either case, this Seraph is going to start churning out units. And if he high rolls the first hit, it's probably going to be bad for Paradox.
Yeah, absolutely. As it stands, though, maybe next time.
Ooh, did not high roll it.
Yeah, got a very bad roll, and Paradox is just going to ace base here since he's got 9 damage between the Finest Hour and the Torch, and he's going to pick up this third game in his favor, leading himself in the series 2-1 over Vodacombo.
Yeah, so good showing by Rakano. Just need one more to close it out. That was a little bit of an awkward draw. Silvering Familiar almost came back to bite him because it was just a 1/1 for the overwhelming majority of the game. But it ended up getting through. The Aegis didn't matter. It survived the harsh roll, was able to suit up at the plate, and that 6 damage ended up being exactly enough for lethal. So
yeah, and
we'll see if that keeps going on. He keeps the Silvering Familiars in for the next game.
Yeah, we will see if he decides to keep them in. Very impressive there that he actually was able to make a comeback in that game. And it kind of speaks to the how bad maybe next time's hand was, that maybe next time actually lost that game when half of the Rakano plate's hand was uncastable for the majority of that game. Like the double aReNGees and the plate didn't come down until the last 2 turns of the game, and that was about turn 9 or 10. So for 8 solid turns, the Paradox, the Rakano plate player, had 3 cards in his hand that were just sitting there taking up space. And he also had double Justice out of the gate and was able to pick up a Fire Sigil with a very lucky top deck.
Yep, and we do move in here to game 3, deciding game 4, Paradox. And he has a reasonable hand, and we do see the Elder's Feather, which, if there are no Titans on the opposing side, may end up doing some work.
Yeah, and we do see a Sandstorm Titan in maybe next time's hand, although we don't see... Okay, he does actually have the double time now, so he will be able to play the Titan. There's also a Valkyrie Enforcer in hand and a Seraph, as well as a Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm could be very crucial here, depending on if Paradox elects to lead off with the Rakano Outlaw or the Crown Watch Paladin.
I would, it's actually interesting. I'd probably favor the Crown Watch Paladin just because you're gonna, whatever you play, you're probably gonna Elder's Feather anyway. So I'd rather put a thing on the guy with Aegis. So we do see that end up being the case.
Yeah, and we do see Seraph come down. We're going to see what kind of blocks are made here. We're going to see, so he does...
Pretty aggressive attack.
Yeah, this is a very aggressive attack. He decides to get in with the Pyro Knight. He does have the Finest Hour to buff it up, but he's really only going to trade it out for a 1/1 and some damage. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I don't think it was necessarily the best trade he could have made there.
Yeah, now this Pyro Knight's still colded by the 3/4. As such, Paradox elects to not extend out the other one. Now there is a Sandstorm Titan, but this Valkyrie Enforcer is going to silence it, letting the Crown Watch Paladin come through, and now there's still 6 power worth of flying damage in the air that maybe next time needs to answer pretty soon.
Yeah, and there's a Valkyrie Enforcer in the hand of maybe next time, and I have a feeling we're going to see this one come down. And it's going to take the Aegis off of the Crown Watch Paladin to make that Lightning Storm in maybe next time's hand a lot better than it was. And this brings the board back to a very reasonable state for maybe next time. It actually allows him to start getting aggressive with the Sandstorm Titan.
Yeah, and Paradox has just drawn a bunch of creatures this game. His only thing that allowed him to get through larger creatures was that Finest Tower, which he kind of frittered away on the 1/1. So now he's in a spot where he really can't attack into anything, and he doesn't really have the prospect of attacking.
Yeah, he's going to need 2 more power to get this Pyro Knight online, or he's going to need another power and a Rakano Plate. If he picks up an aReNGee, that will at least that'll go a ways for him, but I'm not sure if just an aReNGee is going to be enough. It's going to be very slow. It's going to be a 2-turn turnaround on that. Meanwhile, maybe next time is certainly able to put on the pressure with cards like the Sandstorm Titan and Seraph.
Yeah, and it's awkward for Paradox to even extend out because he knows the 2 harsh rules have come in. But I think that I would have played more stuff. I think you can't beat harsh rule at this point. And they also likely would not harsh rule given that their board is better than yours at this point. So I think you just need to play out all your stuff.
Yeah, very much so. We'll see. Maybe next time, choosing to continue getting aggressive here. Gonna try and swing in with the Sandstorm Titan and either force Paradox to lose one of these 2 units into a double block, or he's just gonna have to eat another 5 damage. And Paradox is already down now to 15. I mean, he's still at a pretty solid health total, but it is starting to look a little weaker when you consider what the 2 boards look like.
Yeah. Paradox is almost to the point where you can ult this Pyro Knight, which may matter, but these 2 creatures in play still don't have profitable attacks. Every turn, the Vote Combo deck is just making power drops, getting up to its end game. There's Seraph threatening to ultimate in a couple turns. So Paradox really needs a plate or something to make his creature like the best thing on the board, able to have profitable attacks. Until that point, it's going to be really hard to make any kind of forward progress.
Certainly. Now that he has 5 power, I definitely think Paradox is looking for that plate. That's going to be the big card that's going to allow him to turn this match around. There's not a ton else hanging out in his deck that's really going to be able to swing this matchup when you look at this board. I mean, the 3/3s are currently checking each other in the air, and this Champion of Glory isn't doing a lot. Meanwhile, maybe next time is just building towards 8 power where he's going to be able to have this Seraph go off. And, next turn he has Mystic Ascendant into a power. So he's guaranteed on this turn to be able to go ahead and drop Mystic Ascendant. And yeah, we see it happening right here. Cycles another card, picks up another Mystic Ascendant.
Yep. Mystic Ascendant comes down, draws a card, another Mystic Ascendant, and now you'll see the Sandstorm Titan get in. Again, double block is the option. Elects to take 5. And now we're getting to the point where even plate isn't enough. I'm not sure really what top deck Paradox can have here.
Yeah, I guess plate is really the only card. He's got a plate and suit up the Valkyrie. And other than that, doesn't really have anywhere he can go with this. And even then, I don't think that's enough at this point. I think the clock on the other side of the board is too much for him to handle. We see that second Mystic Ascendant coming down, and we see yet another Mystic Ascendant was picked up. Yeah, I think that one was picked up.
It's a little redundant. A little overkill.
Yeah, certainly. 3 Mystic Ascendants, and he's got another Sandstorm Titan in hand even, and another power to follow it up on the next turn. I think Paradox is just going to have to tap out of this game. Doesn't look like it's going to happen for him.
Yeah, it appears he's on no out. He's going to have to try and take it in the ultimate game 5. because right now he just kind of has chump blocks. There's really nothing he can draw at this point. Even plate is no longer good enough. We do see the trade on the 3/3s in the air, and we will see if there's any blocks that come down the Titan.
Yeah, I think if you're Paradox, you just need to concede right here. Like, I don't think you have a way out. And we see the well play get thrown out and the concession. This will take us to a game 5. So we're going to have a deciding game right here. See, essentially in a pre or post board best of 1, who can bring it home. And it really could go either way. You know, I was giving the edge originally to Paradox on the Rakano plate, but maybe next time has definitely found ways to battle back in this matchup, and it kind of has come down to these opening hands. So we'll see if Paradox can rip just a very, very solid opener and be able to kind of run over maybe next time, or if maybe next time we'll have just as good of an opener and be able to stave off that early aggression and then scale into the late game like he did in that one.
Yeah, the Rakano deck can certainly get underneath the like Combre base deck a reasonable amount of the time, but you need to draw your important cards like Plate, like Finest Hour, Vanquish, Rebuke, things that allow you to actually get through the blockers. When you have a creature-heavy draw like Paradox did that game, you're just going to have a bunch of dudes that can't attack into like a 3/4. So it really depends upon the texture of Paradox's draw versus what maybe next time is bringing to the table. If Paradox draws a lot of stuff like Finest Hour and Vanquish and Plate, I do think that he's going to have a decent time getting through and actually making forward progress.
Certainly. Paradox taking a time to review his sideboard. Looked like there was some consideration on him cutting aReNGee. Elects not to do it in the end, but there was at least some consideration there. I kind of would like to see these Silverwing Familiars get out of the main board. Definitely over the aReNGee if those are his considerations. If he's looking at taking aReNGee out, I would certainly take out Silverwing first.
I feel like aReNGee is one of the most important cards this matchup because even if you draw well, the game will frequently devolve to a board stall, and aReNGee is the only way you have to break that. So that would be very odd to take out that card. Again, we talked about why I think Silver Familiar is like pretty underwhelming. I'd like to see that card come out. Sort of Ikaria also really doesn't do anything in this matchup. That would be a reasonable thing to take out. Doesn't attack into anything other than a Valkyrie Enforcer. So a lot of pretty marginal cards that I'd like to see come out here.
Yeah, and we did see one Silverwing Familiar come out, still leaving 2 in, but, you know, I'll take 2 over 3. It's a small improvement. That's what matters.
Yep, and we will move here into the final game 5 to the deciding match to see who moves into the semifinals here. Week 4 of the Eternal Tournament Series. And we have a reasonable hand here on the side of Paradox.
Yeah, Paradox with a pretty great hand here. Double Oni Ronin and Rakano Outlaw. Unfortunately for him, maybe next time has 2 Lightning Storms. Fortunately for him, however, maybe next time doesn't have any Primal currently. He's only got 1 other power in his hand, and it's just a Time Sigil.
See if that doesn't matter. We have a pretty blazing start from Paradox here, about as fast as deck can generate. He has 1-drop, double 1-drop, or Rakano Outlaw, depending upon how he wants to gauge his exposure to a potential Lightning Storm. The difference between playing the other, like the 1-drop, 1-drop, or the 2-drop is really just 2 damage. You don't get an additional Warcry trigger, which would be the main reason to do the double 1-drop plan. Given that, it's probably safe to just for Outlaw, and that's what we do see inside of Paradox.
Yeah, we see the Outlaw come down. Maybe next time responding with a main phase Desert Marshal. Very likely Paradox is just going to go ahead and jam back. Not too concerned about it.
Yeah, we trade for the Oni Ronin, but you get to deploy your aReNGee and then activate it next turn. Although, because the Seek power essentially comes into play depleted because you spend a mana to activate it, it makes it so they cannot activate aReNGee on turn 4 unless they top deck a power. They'll play it anyway, because if they top deck power, they get to activate it. If not, they can just Seek power, play another threat, set it up for the following turn.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be met by the second Desert Marshal from maybe next time. And it's the only reason I'm a little questionable on these plays. I kind of would have liked to have seen the double 1-drops that turn. Plays around the second Desert Marshal, plays into the Lightning Storm, but your opponent still hasn't found a primal source, and you definitely have to be paying a lot of attention to that. Maybe next time does echo a Find the Way, though, so he will be able to pick up a Primal Source, which creates a useful Lightning Storm, but not this turn, since the Sigil will be depleted, which is going to give Paradox one more free turn of attacks here.
Yeah, this is a bunch of damage coming through. We still have the Warcry triggers rolling. Even this Pyronite is starting to ultimate a little bit later. I think you don't extend the Pyronite because it doesn't add a whole bunch to the board, and it actually is a good follow-up to a sweeper because you are close to ultimating it. And we do see the Paradox hold back the Pyronite. So Sandstorm Titan is a bit of a problem. It blocks everything profitably, but Finest Hour, as we talked about before, one of the cards that allows you to actually interact profitably with these large cards.
Yeah, absolutely here. And because of that, he's able to go ahead and throw in the Ace base. He baits out the Sandstorm Titan block and capitalizes on it with the Finest Hour. And all of a sudden, this game is definitely looking like Paradox is going to be able to bring it home here.
Lightning Storm stems a little bit of the bleeding, but there's still the 5/5 to contend with. And Combra Healer doesn't really rumble with it.
Yeah, it gets in the way for the time being, so that's fine, but it's not exactly where you want to be. That being said, maybe next time does have 2 Mystic Ascendants in his hand, so if he can get this board back to a reasonable state, we'll likely to see a Lightning Storm go off this turn. The second Lightning Storm to clean up the Pyronite before it can ultimate. I mean, I have to imagine that's the play. You can't let this stick on the board. And then next turn, maybe next time, we'll be able to establish a 6/6 Mystic Ascendant, so he might be able to stabilize at 4 life. It really depends on what Paradox can pick up in his 2 draw steps.
Yeah, he's definitely not out of the woods yet. Paradox still needs to try to draw one more business spell to close this out. The Lightning Storm taking out the Pyronite leaves him with 4 damage short. So we'll see what comes off the top. And there's a Torch, which is 1 damage short. But will likely give them a profitable attack into whatever blocker that maybe next time presents on the following turn, though.
Yeah, Torch is good, but it's not quite what you're looking for. We do see a Diplomatic Seal picked up, so interesting. Yeah, decides to go to combat here. Makes sense. He's going to bait this out with the Torch since he has quick draw. But this is starting to look like it's slipping away from him. I mean, maybe next time is going to be able to establish onto the board now. He picks up Great Parliament there. He's able to play Great Parliament down, and then he also has the Cumbra Healer to make it big, though we do see an aReNGee picked up. Well,
and he can activate immediately.
Yeah, with the 7th power, he can activate immediately. Okay, this is a big swing now. Now that he can start pushing in with the Champion of Glory all buffed up, this is a big swing.
Yeah, and this necessitates a chump block, likely the 2/2. And aReNGee herself is a consequential threat, although it currently can't technically the 4/7, but if this champion keeps coming in and forcing chump blocks, then that's okay. And also now any threat that Paradox draws can get plate from aReNGee.
Yeah, absolutely. We see running Temple Scribes here. That's actually pretty good for maybe next time. Definitely with the Fire Sigil picked up off the top, that's going to stop. It's going to stop a lot of the bleeding for the time being, as we're just going to see this Champion of Glory as a 13/13 start getting chump blocked by these 1/1 Temple Scribes.
Yeah, definitely a quip here because of free roll. The aReNGee's not attacking; it's not really blocking. So the 1/1s will start to eat it. So those 1/1s are going to buy a lot of time for the Vodafone deck here. We'll see if that time is able to be converted into anything of note.
Yeah, we will see indeed. Mystic Ascendant going to be the drop, going to play a power, picks up another power. And in the meantime, we just have big Champion of Glory, and another power off the top of the deck for Paradox. So we've got a 17/17 Champion of Glory, but it's not doing a lot. And this Mystic Ascendant's going to be able to start going off.
Yeah, there's definitely a path forward for what is it like? If he draws a Vodakid, if he draws a Parliament, there's a lot of things he can do to turn the corner here. Although he's still in the abyss, this champion still demands a chump block every turn, so he's going to need something. If he has to chump block with the 4/7 or the 8/8 this turn, that's not great. He needs more fodder to buy time to draw more cards with his Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah, certainly not fantastic. There is a Valkyrie Enforcer hanging out in the hand of maybe next time, so he can come up with a chump blocker. The question is, which unit are you going to put the silence on?
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting question. And we do see the quick draw and the endurance going away. I don't hate that at all. It makes it a lot harder for Paradox to attack. He likely still will, but there is now a crackback to be had by the Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah, definitely a crackback to be had. And we see a Find the Way echoed off the top. And maybe next time, gonna cycle a power and picks up I think it's a Sandstorm Titan. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Still in the Abyss, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's in the Abyss for the time being, but if Paradox continues to use this aReNGee to buff the Champion of Glory, now that it doesn't have the endurance, he will start being able to chip through for 10 damage a turn as long as he can come up with a blocker.
Yeah, there's a 3-turn clock in the back end, actually more than that. But now another creature off the top is great because you can play that aReNGee, it becomes a 6/6, can block the Titan, is threatening to attack itself in the following turn. So Paradox can eat a hit here from the Mystic Ascendant, although he will put himself dead to a Vanquish, but I think it's just kind of what you have to do.
Yeah, I don't think you really have a way to play around at this point. And we do see the armor coming down, and maybe next time has a very interesting consideration here. And a Harsh Rule picked up off the top. Now you're in a very interesting position. There is some logic that says you go ahead and jam here, and then you Harsh Rule the board away. If Paradox hasn't been playing anything up until this point, it's very unlikely that he has another unit to follow up. So you're going to put yourself in essentially a top deck war. But I think that's the position you'd rather be in than knowing that this aReNGee is going to make units that you can never deal with.
Yeah, definitely. If there's any business in the hand there for maybe next time, it's probably best to Harsh Rule it.
Yeah, certainly better to Harsh Rule it here. We'll see what he decides to come up with the play. I mean, unfortunately for maybe next time, his hand is 4 power, a Lightning Storm, and a Harsh Rule. So it's not like he has a ton of business going on in his hand either. He's pretty dead himself, but I think you have to just put yourself in that situation. I feel like you're just going to have to jam here with this Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah, because if you think about it on the crackback, you can't attack with Mystic Ascendant, or else the aReNGee will just plate up the 6/6, and then there's 2 lethal attackers, and you only have 1 blocker. So I think that you just have to alpha here, get your 12 damage or whatever Paradox lets you have, and then Harsh Rule and hope you out top deck their counter deck, which is certainly favored considering the fact that you're drawing things like Mystic Ascendant and they're drawing like 2/2s and 2/1s, whatever.
Yeah, certainly. And we're still waiting to see what this attack is. Okay, we did see the attack finally come through. It is just the 12/12. There's some consideration here. And Paradox deciding whether or not he really wants to throw the 6/6 into it. He's wondering whether or not it's worth it, or if it's worth it to go down to 3. Now, little does he know, if he doesn't block here, that this Harsh Rule is certainly going off here to reset this board.
I think this is a really hard chump block to make. I mean, this telegraphs something because they have to have another creature or they're dead. So they obviously have something, but I think you make them show it to you and force them to have whatever that is. And we do see it's the Harsh Rule and sending things back to neutral. And now we're in a top deck war that the combo deck is certainly favored in, but not 100%.
Yeah, definitely not. And Paradox picks up an Elder's Feather. Maybe next time just picks up a Power. Paradox picks up a Recano Outlaw, so now he's got something on board, but maybe next time still has a Lightning Storm hanging out in his hand, which we now see hit the board. Let's see what Paradox can pick up here. This is top decking at its finest. A Torch, and maybe next time grabs a Vanquish. Vanquish going to be a miss here, actually, so he's the first one to kind of lose in the top deck war. Definitely now.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, now that we have the Silverwing Familiar, and he's going to put the Elder's Feather on it, I would assume, just to increase his clock speed.
Yeah, 1/1's not going to do it. I want... Oh, that's another one, too. But yeah, we'll see the 2 damage per turn to get it to actually lethal next turn, assuming
there's a
this
Harsh Rule off the top, though. Harsh Rule off the top, followed by the Lightning Storm he still has in hand, so he can clean this board back up. And we're kind of just bouncing around here between the two players.
Yeah, there's still a lot Paradox could draw to close out another threat if it goes unanswered. He just needs to get 4 more damage via creatures, and he has the torch. Or
Oh,
even
Seraph picked up off the top, though. I think
Yeah.
this is going to be the one that breaks it here.
Yeah, this helps him turn the corner. It hits actually good hit. Like the 4/7 that gains 3 is probably above average. Crown Watch Paladin, probably a little too late to the party now. No more Elder's Feather to give it flying. This Seraph is just going to keep rolling, and the more Seraph rolls, the more likely it is it hits a big thing, and we do see there the 16/16 Plated Demolisher.
Yeah.
Going to demolish the hopes of Paradox here.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Paradox can fortunately take it off the board because I think it's destroyed if you don't have any armor, so he'll use the torch to clean that up.
He actually killed both.
Yeah, he could kill both and push through here.
Well, the plate doesn't die until the beginning of, or actually, it gets to attack. It checks it end of turn, end of the controller's turn. So he can torch, face, and vanquish the 4/7, and then he has to chump block. So that doesn't work.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the end of the road for Paradox here.
I mean, he could just vanquish the plate demolisher, but then there's still the 4/7, which he likely has to do, but it doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I think you just have to vanquish the 4/7 and torch the face, and you're just going to have to hold off and chump block into the 16/16 and just wait for it to die. But I mean, this Seraph is just going to be pumping out tokens. I don't think you really have a win condition from this state. Any unit you pick up at this point is going to be tiny compared to the things that Seraph is going to be spitting out in the meantime.
We do see Paradox familiarizing himself with the text box of Plated Demolisher, not a common card you see.
Yeah, definitely not a common card you see. That much is for sure. Yep. And Great Parliament in the hand for maybe next time. Now, this game is over. This is going to be maybe next time moving on to our next round here. 4 owls coming out. And with the 18/18 timekeeper as well, I mean, there's just absolutely no way that Paradox comes back from this.
Yeah, good showing by Paradox. Played the matchup pretty well, but it's just going to be a little bit too short coming up against the Combray deck. Commits Honorable Sudoku, and we will see maybe next time in the finals, or semifinals, rather.
Yeah, Honorable Sudoku committed, and Paradox falling down here. Not going to be able to make it with the Rakano Plate. A very good showing from him, though. Took the series all the way to Game 5. But at the end of the day, maybe next time you'll be able to beat me, but not today, and secures his spot in our semifinals. I think we do have results. We should anyway. I think that was by far our longest matchup. Yeah. So let's take a look at who we have up next. But before we take a look at what the bracket now currently looks like, I just want to let you all know that everything we've been doing here has been all essentially on the backs of our Patreon. So if you guys like and appreciate the service we provide you, if you want to support us, if you feel like the service we provide is worth just a little bit of your money, please feel free to donate to us at www.patreon.com/RNG Eternal. The link will be on the screen. If you donate, we really do appreciate it, as this is how we fund our entire tournament series, including all of our prize pools. Most of our prize pool money comes from our Patreon money. So this is how we fund bigger and better tournaments, as well as increasing our broadcasting production. At $150, we got expanded article content, and now that we have surpassed $200, we are working on monthly Sunday tournaments, which will be coming up at the end of Season 4. If we can get to $250, we'll get bigger prize pools for all of our major tournaments, and the rewards just get better from there. So if you feel like the service we provide is worth just a little bit of your money, please feel free to go down to www.patreon.com/RNG Eternal. It is very much appreciated. Thank you all. Oh, sorry. I just got word. Our first Sunday tournament is tomorrow, actually. So we have actually jumped the timeline up on that, and we're going to have a fun Sunday Fun Day tournament tomorrow. It's not going to be streamed, unfortunately. Maybe we can work on that as we go down the line, but it will be a Sunday Funday tournament. So stop by and check that out. The information should be on the aReNGee Eternal website. We are going to take a very short break, folks, and we're going to come back and talk about our quarterfinals matchups and bring you our semifinals. Stay tuned. Do not go anywhere.